Oh, it's freezing up in Reynoso Mountain. Join us here at the base camp as we prepare to climb up this ruthless and treacherous summit. If you weren't here with us the first time we did this, let me make clear what the criteria is for Reynoso Mountain. Because Reynoso Mountain is essentially the Ballon d'Or race. The main difference between Reynoso Mountain and the Ballon d'Or title race is that this isn't a popularity contest. This is not about who's the most popular guy, most well-liked guy in all of world football. No, this is about who is the top, outright best player in the world. My criteria is simple. I look for the player that has achieved the most throughout the entire season, both at club and international level. I look to see if he broke any individual records. I look to see how good his form is. And then on top of it, I do like to see how his team is performing in major tournaments. Which then brings me to one of the more important factors involved with Reynoso Mountain right now, which is the international factor. We have the Copa America and Euros coming up, so this mountain is going to look much different a few months from now. Last thing to know is that I am climbing up this mountain by myself this time around, as Saltero is over at Coachella right now, enjoying his life. To start, let's look at the players that dropped out from the first iteration of Reynoso Mountain. We have 8 guys who dropped out of this mountain who just couldn't maintain their spot up top. We have Bernardo Silva, Nathan Ake, Savio, Marcus Thuram, Victor Boniface, Julian Alvarez, Virgil van Dijk, and Heung-min Son. Let's look at a few of these because I do think some of these are worth noting. Nathan Ake kind of slowed his form down a little bit. He got injured more specifically, so that kind of kept him from participating in major matchups. Savio slowed down as well, doing great for Girona this whole season, but he has slowed down. He was off to a flaming hot start. Victor Boniface, who went through injuries for a long time too, is now back with Bayer Leverkusen, so that's a great sign. But when you're thinking about the best 28 guys in the world, you can't be out for that long, and so that's why he fell out. Julian Alvarez had an incredible start to the season, has slowed down a lot now, doesn't even start as much or as routinely as he did to start off the season. Virgil van Dijk, we saw Liverpool get kicked out of the Europa League. We saw Liverpool get kicked out of the FA Cup as well. He slowed down in general as a defender, and I think most defenders in world football have actually slowed down a little bit. It's tough to find one that truly stands out amongst the rest. So what does that mean then? Because we have 8 empty spots that need replacing. And my goodness, there are so many players, guys, that people felt deserved to already be on the mountain last time that could maybe join us this time around. Grab your boots, grab your backpacks, because it's time that we climb up Reynoso Mountain 2.0. And here we go. Reynoso Mountain has 7 tiers, so let's get to the first one to see who joins us on this list. To start, we have Mohamed Salah, Julian Brandt, Toni Kroos, Luuk de Jong, Artem Dovbyk, Antoine Griezmann, and Ilkay Gundogan. Man, do we have some surprises here. Mo Salah, to start, was at the very top, was one of our top 5 players last time, has completely fallen off a cliff, literally. We find him here at the base of Reynoso Mountain begging for help as he slowed down a ton in his form, and it makes sense. He had such a good start to the season, but basically ever since AFCON, Salah has slowed down a lot. Julian Brandt is a newcomer who joins us here thanks to the incredible performance that he has had with Dortmund. 9 goals and 13 assists in 40 matches this season. Semifinal UEFA Champions League run that he is on right now. Not doing so well in the Bundesliga, but I do rate these European competitions very high, and given that Brandt is the most consistent and I would argue the best player for Dortmund when they're rolling, I think he deserves to be on this list. Congratulations to the German Julian Brandt. Next up, we have the midfield maestro Toni Kroos, who I really debated putting on this list, but it's so hard to ignore him. It really is. He is absolute class, technical excellence on the ball. And the problem with Toni Kroos is that he's been underrated for so long in his career. It's time he is properly rated, especially on Reynoso Mountain. He makes the list because Real Madrid is flying on all cylinders, winning a Clásico today. And then comes a really interesting surprise in Luuk de Jong. PSV's very own Luuk de Jong, the first player that I ever put on Reynoso Mountain that isn't on the top 5 leagues. You look at Luuk de Jong's numbers, they're crazy. They're crazy, and that's what they had to be in order to get up on this mountain. 35 goals and 15 assists in 44 matches this entire season. PSG was undefeated at one point in the domestic league. This guy was one of the main reasons for it. I mean, he's been a killer. He's been an absolute killer. And the thing is, we've known this about Luc de Jong. We've known this because when it comes to Dutch football, he is a master of the league. We've just seen, what he does when he's over at La Liga, what he's done when he's at Sevilla or Barcelona. It's not as impressive. It doesn't translate. But I'm going to give him his flowers. I'm going to give him his props. Luc de Jong, what a season so far. Congratulations. Next up is Artem Dovbyk, who has dropped in form. Girona as a whole has dropped in form a little bit, which is why Savio and Dovbyk do suffer a little bit here on this list. But still, he deserves to be on it because Girona being in third place is a crazy story nonetheless. And he's the prolific goal scorer that is guiding them offensively. The last two guys here are two La Liga players, and Antoine Griezmann and Ilkay Gundogan. Antoine Griezmann with 21 goals, 8 assists in 42 matches, beating Inter Miami in a really impressive round of 16 matchup, but then disappointing against Borussia Dortmund, and that is why I dropped him on this mountain. He is hanging on to his spot right now. I know Soltero is scared for his life, but he is hanging on to his spot right now. He needs to keep scoring some goals. He needs to keep getting these assists, and ultimately he needs to guide Atletico Madrid to a UEFA Champions League spot in La Liga, because right now he has Athletic Bilbao right behind him looking to get that spot as well. And then lastly, it's Ilkay Gundogan. To me, the most consistent, the most reliable Barcelona player right now. I know a lot of people will argue that that's Lamine Yamal, and I do think I really consider putting him on this list because the kid has been fantastic this entire season. I think the only thing holding him back are ultimately his numbers. His numbers don't look as nice as he does on the pitch. They haven't translated fully, but that's okay. The dude's 16 years old. If anything, I think he's on the fringe right now. These are the top 28 players in the world. I think Lamine Yamal's probably like the 35th, 33rd, 34th best player in the world right now. So he is right there. If I had one more tier, he would be on this mountain. But instead, I'm going to put Ilkay Gundogan, who has 5 goals and 11 assists in 46 matches this entire season. The key number there isn't the goals or the assists. It's the number of matches. 46 games as a Barcelona midfield is a goddamn miracle. It is a miracle when you see Pedri and Gavi and even Luc de Jong and even Frankie de Jong struggling with health, struggling with injuries. The fact that you can have such a reliable, such a calming presence in the midfield in Ilkay Gundogan, I think is a big reason for why I put him on this mountain and why I do think he's been Barcelona's most complete, most consistent player this entire season. So with that being said, that is the 7th tier. That is the 7th level of Reynoso Mountain. Let's go up one more to see who are the new additions to this mountain. We have, to start, Lautaro Martinez, Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard, Victor Gyökeres, Bukayo Saka, and Luis Openda. Yeah, these are some new names right here. These are some new names. I know you might be surprised. You might be shocked by the selections, but let me justify why each of these players are on this tier. To start, Lautaro Martinez, who at one point was in the 3rd tier, I believe. He was so incredibly high because he was off to a banging start with Inter Milan scoring so many goals, but to me that UEFA Champions League defeat against Atletico Madrid really bothers me when it comes to rating Lautaro, because he essentially went ghost in that series, man. He went ghost, missing a penalty that is still flying over the Wanda Metropolitana right now. Regardless, the numbers are nice. 26 goals, 2 assists in 39 matches. Inter Milan is the best team in Italy right now, so for that reason, Lautaro is here in the 6th tier. Next up is Declan Rice, who has 6 goals and 6 assists in 46 matches. It's not about the stats with Dex. It really is not. It's about the appearances. It's about the presence he provides for Arsenal in that midfield defensively. One of the best defensive midfielders in the entire world. Having a really good season because time in, time out, he has that argument. He has that type of performance where you can say he has been the best player on the pitch. It's Declan Rice who just consistently does it over and over again for the team who right now in this moment is top of the Premier League until Manchester City plays. And so with that, we do have 2 more Arsenal players that joins Declan Rice here, specifically Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka. I know people have been harping on Bukayo Saka a lot as of late because he's been limping his way off the pitch time and time again, specifically in these losses. And I can't, I'm not going to, you can hold that against him if you want. It makes sense fully. I get it. It's a frustrating thing to see. And Saka in general has been a little frustrating as of late. But his numbers are still really good. 18 goals and 13 assists in 44 matches for this Arsenal side. Being the most reliable offensive force for them when it comes to, Saka, Trossard, or Martinelli. I do think it's still Saka. Even if he slowed down, I'm still going to put my money on Saka being the more reliable offensive player for them. And next up is Martin Odegaard with 10 goals and 7 assists in 43 matches. Really living up to the excellent level he displayed last year in the Premier League, duplicating it once again. I love Odegaard. I really do. One of my favorite players in all of world football right now. His IQ, the way he facilitates the ball, his activity and energy, it's always so positive. It's a guy, he's definitely one of those guys that makes you feel jealous when he isn't on your team because he's a match winner, he's a game winner, and he shows it time and time again. And now I know what you're thinking. Reynoso, why the hell do you have a Swedish player up here? A Swedish player? Folks, we have a baller on the list. A man who is soon going to make a big, big move, I predict, to a big, big club. Because his name is Victor Gyökeres, and he is guiding Sporting CP alongside Amorim, the soon-to-be Liverpool coach, to a title in Portugal. But guys, the numbers are ridiculous. I know I'm sure I already received criticism for putting Luke de Jong, a player who's outside the top 5, in this list. Well, I'm going to double down on it. I'm going to do it again. And Victor Gyökeres, these numbers, 36 goals. 36 goals and 14 assists in 44 matches. And now I know what you're going to say. Reynoso, that's just Portuguese tax. That's Portuguese tax. And fair enough, because I had this discussion with Saltero. I had this discussion with my boy Saltero, and he said the exact same thing. And here's what I'll say in response. I understand. I'm with you. I get it. The Portuguese tax is fraudulent. It can be proven wrong time and time again. Joao Felix, shit, you could even say Darwin Nunez when you talk about the numbers translating fully. I get it. So why don't we tax Victor Gyökeres and see what his real numbers would look like? Because we're talking about 36 and 14 and 44. Removing the tax, that's looking like 20 and 10 in a good league. And that's pretty good, folks. That's looking pretty good because there we're still removing 16 goals and 4 assists from his overall stats. 20 and 10 is still enough to make it on this mountain. 20 and 10 is still enough to bypass this incredible tax that we have to deal with guys from Portugal and guys from Netherlands. I think it's really, really impressive what he's done so far, leading Sporting CP offensively. He deserves to be on this list. 36 goals is crazy, guys. It's crazy, guys. It really is crazy, and we need to talk about it. And so now, let's get German with it. Let's get German with it because Saltero and I have spoken in the past about the Bundesliga potentially being a top 2 league in the world. I don't think it's there yet, but it's definitely number 3. It's definitely number 3, the 3rd best league in the world. And so if you're putting up numbers in Germany, I'm going to rate that very, very highly. Openda's one of those guys. He's one of those guys who right now for RB Leipzig is putting up 27 goals and 6 assists in 41 matches. Leipzig themselves have been weird this season and they haven't achieved anything truly in terms of trophies or, going deep in tournaments. But I'm looking at the numbers. 3rd highest goal scorer in the Bundesliga right now with some really good assist numbers. I mean, I have to rate it. I have to. Coming from my beloved Lens over in France, playing incredible for them and guiding them to a Champions League spot, comes over to RB Leipzig and continues that run of really good finishing for the Belgian. I'm so impressed with Openda. He deserves to be on here. Congratulations, my friend. So let's see who we have up next. Now we have in the 5th tier, we have my boy Frimpong, Rodrigo, Federico Valverde, Ollie Watkins, and then Guirassy, the Stuttgart forward who has been incredible this entire season. These are the next 5 that have stepped up this entire season. Let's go through them. My boy Jeremy Frimpong, man, one of the most likable players in all of world football, just won the Bundesliga with Bayer Leverkusen and has maintained their level of excellence this entire year from his fullback/wingback position under Xabi Alonso. Frimpong has been incredible. He has been incredible. I have no words for this guy because every time I see him, I'm just so hyped. I'm so excited, and he delivers time and time again. 13 goals and 10 assists in 40 matches for this Bayer Leverkusen side. Having a wonderful season. I'm so impressed by Frimpong. He is a newcomer to this list, and folks, I think he's going to stay here because Bayer Leverkusen remains undefeated, largely due to Frimpong. Let's talk some Madrid. Let's talk some Madrid because we had Toni Kroos on this list. We had Federico Valverde, and now we have Rodrigo, who I think has been a big part for Real Madrid's success this year. They just won a Clásico, so La Liga looks secure to them. They just beat Manchester City this week, so I think Champions League looks pretty good for them as well. I'm not going to give them to it just yet, but it's looking good with a semifinal appearance. It's been a really good season for Real Madrid. And, given that Vinny Jr. dealt with being injured for a while, it was Rodrigo who actually maintained the offensive level for Real Madrid for a large part of the season, especially at the beginning. And now we've seen him slow down a little bit, but the thing is, Rodrigo is just he's so tricky, man. He really is. When he's on the ball, he can do whatever he wants with it. He has so much pace behind him, and he has some big moments in that Manchester City matchup, scoring in both legs. I got to give it to Rodrigo, man. He's been so good. 17 goals and 8 assists in 44 matches. And then I might as well talk about his teammate, Federico Valverde. Not about the stats with Valverde. This guy has won Man of the Match award time and time again because he's the type of midfielder that just makes you wish he played for your own team. An absolute winner, a game changer, and a guy who, ever since solidifying his spot in the rotation for Real Madrid in the midfield, the dude has not lost it. He has not lost it, despite having Luka Modric, Tchouaméni, Toni Kroos, Camavinga, all challenging for the midfield spots. It's Valverde who consistently plays there no matter what and is always there for them in those really important matches. I love Valverde, I really do, and that's why he's up here on this list. And the last two guys I think are really fun selections. Let's start with Ollie Watkins. 26 goals and 10 assists in 47 matches for the Aston Villa forward. What a rise he has had, man. This guy is going to cause so many complications when it comes to figuring out the offense for the English national team because this man has just put himself in the conversation with the season he has had. I believe he's like on 20 goals in the Prem, and the craziest thing is that he doesn't take penalties. He's not a penalty taker, so he's acquired that many goals by just being on the pitch and scoring fucking bangers. And the other week, we saw him do it against Arsenal. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Ollie Watkins has been incredible, mesmerizing this season, and so has Guirassy over at Stuttgart, scoring nonstop. The guy will not slow down. Early on in the season, there were accusations. People were saying that he was just a 1-month wonder. It's just the Bundesliga tax. It's just a random dude going off, which tends to happen in the Bundesliga, and then ultimately slowing down. But the thing is, Guirassy has not slowed down. He has not slowed down whatsoever. 27 goals and 2 assists in 26 matches. The only thing holding him back is a little bit of his health. He tends to get injured here and there, and so he ends up missing out on some really important matches. So his numbers would probably be a lot crazier if he was healthy the whole season. I'm talking about only 26 games overall, folks. 27 goals in 26 games is Holland numbers. That's what it is. So let's give some respect to Ollie Watkins and Guirassy. Oh shit, I think I just saw a raccoon. Folks, let's keep going. Let's keep going. We got to keep climbing. Fuck, get on your horse and let's climb. We got the next tier to find out who we have on Reynoso Mountain. Ooh, it's getting spicy. It is getting spicy. We have Vinny Jr. Grimaldo's up here on the mountain. What's up, Grimaldo? Rodri and Erling Haaland. All right, some of these could be a little controversial. Let's talk about him. First off, Vinny Jr., he's just getting better and better. Got a goal and an assist in El Clásico today. He was really good in the Manchester City Real Madrid matchup in the UEFA Champions League. 19 goals and 9 assists in 32 matches. He dealt with like a month or two of being injured, but whenever he's healthy and he's on the pitch, he has the potential of being the most dangerous man out of the full 22 players on a football pitch. And that is a ridiculous thing to say because he constantly plays in such high-level matches for Real Madrid. Vinny is incredible. We all know it. I just think he needs to continue that pace, needs to continue that level, and guide them to a UEFA Champions League trophy, because if he does that, then he's definitely in the conversation. He's definitely in the conversation for the Ballon d'Or. And this one I like. This is my friend right here. Guys, meet Grimaldo, a man who has slowly been climbing up Reynoso Mountain at his own pace because his numbers are beautiful. 11 goals, 15 assists in 44 matches for the undefeated Bayer Leverkusen. I'm not going to speak much more about Bayer Leverkusen because we know how well they've done. We all know Xabi Alonso's magical season has just continued and they still have not lost. Grimaldo and Frimpong, a big reason for why. And Grimaldo is just slightly higher than Frimpong because Frimpong's on better form right now, but Grimaldo, bro, he started the season off so hot. So hot. And the numbers back it. He has been incredible. And both of these fullbacks are the main reason, or a big reason, for why Bayer Leverkusen has been so successful. Grimaldo, one of my favorite players in the world as well. Shout out to him, and it's good to see him on the mountain. Lastly, we have two Manchester City players. First off, it's Rodri, who I believe, it depends on how you rate penalty shootouts, but I believe has still not technically lost a game in the past year in regulation, right? Because Manchester City lost against Real Madrid on a penalty shootout, but ultimately both games were tied. Both games ended in a draw, and Rodri played in both matches. That's a crazy stat nonetheless. Even if you count the Madrid loss, like, it's crazy. This guy does not lose, and he is so quick on the ball. He's so protective of it, and he just knows how to distribute it as well. The man is so smart, one of the smartest players I've seen play the sport, and just a great embodiment of what a Spanish midfielder is. Rodri is on this list because he's having yet another really good season. And now we get to the controversial one, Erling Haaland. And this one hurts me, man, because I wish it wasn't controversial. I really do wish it wasn't, because the man have assigned him, the folks have assigned him a new name, Erling Ghost Haaland, a man who is a walking figment of people's imaginations, a man who is not real, a man who likes to ghost. And it's tough to defend, man, because in these big matches for Manchester City, I mean, he just gets canceled out completely. If the defense wants to, they can eliminate Erling Haaland, and we don't see him. A lot of people argue it might be because of Pep's tactics, as Soltero does argue, but for me, I need to see more from a player who so often gets compared to Kylian Mbappe, so often gets compared to Ronaldo, so often gets compared to, the next in line for like the upcoming generation of great players. If you want to be a great player, you cannot get singled out like that in big matches and go ghost. But the thing is, beyond that, the numbers are still ridiculous, guys. 39 matches, 31 goals. And we're considering that as a slow season. We're considering that as him ghosting. Folks, that is a strong ghost. That is a vocal ghost. That is the type of ghost that you see like move fucking chairs in your house. The type of ghost that fucking moves dishes and trays and like, you catch having a shower, that you sometimes see. That's a strong presence of a ghost, if we're being honest. 31 goals, 6 assists, and 39 matches. It's good, guys. But he deserves to be on the mountain. He does. I don't want to hear any shouts that he shouldn't, because he does deserve to be here. I just wish he could do a little bit more, because this man could truly be a Ballon d'Or contender if he just rose up another level. In the 5th tier, remember there's only 7 total. In the 5th tier, we have Cole motherfucking Palmer, Phil, my boy Foden, and Jude, the golden boy, Bellingham. Now, a lot of things stand out about these 3 selections, a lot. And I think I'm actually going to start with Jude Bellingham, because if you remember our first iteration of Reynoso Mountain, Jude Bellingham was the top dog. He was the front runner. He was first place for Reynoso Mountain, for reaching the summit, but then also for the Ballon d'Or race. Folks, I'm sorry to report that Bellingham has slipped a little bit. There was bad weather conditions. He was up at the top of the mountain, maybe a mini avalanche. He slipped a little bit. He lost a little bit of his level, just a little bit, to where he's now in the 3rd tier. And I know it sounds crazy to a lot of you people. I know it does, but let's look at the numbers. Let's look at him. 21 goals, 10 assists, and 36 matches. That's incredible. That's really, really good, especially for the position he plays and what he does on the pitch. It's crazy to even fathom him having that in his debut season with Real Madrid. It's so impressive to me. To me, definitely the best Real Madrid player this entire season, because he's been so consistent. And once again, showed it today in El Clásico, scoring the game-winning goal. The 2nd time he's done that in El Clásico, by the way. It's incredible. It's storybook. It's so good. He has slowed down just a little bit, though. If we're being honest, he has slowed down just a little bit in terms of numbers, in terms of impact, but he's still been really solid. I just think that when it comes to the Ballon d'Or race, and it comes to like the top contenders, like, you gotta be on it constantly, week in, week out. You cannot have an off night. It's so tough in the Ballon d'Or race. It really is, especially at the very, very top. He's not out of it, but he definitely has dropped just a couple of places for me right now, because I do think there's other players who are on better form. Phil Foden was a guy that I had as potentially being able to replace Jude Bellingham. And he was well on his way to doing that, especially with the way that He performed in that first game against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, scoring a banger of a goal. I was like, oh shit, it's destined. It's coming. Phil Foden, the story is coming. The trophy is coming. But then he kind of ghosted in that second match. Or at least he wasn't as impactful as I had hoped he would be. Same with the FA Cup match against Chelsea. Not much there. It's okay. They're tired. They play a lot of games. But I also think that he slowed down just a little bit in comparison to the top dogs here. He still is in contention. It's not a debate about that. I just think that right now, in this moment, April 21st, this is where he stands. But I truly do think that by the end of the year, there's a strong shot that Phil Foden is a top 3 nominee. And the final man up here is actually Cole Palmer. Let's talk about Cole Palmer, because we look at a lot of these guys on the mountains and they play for really established clubs that are, succeeding right now, that are thriving right now, especially towards the latter part of the season, that are deep in their tournaments, that are, destined to win their league titles. Cole Palmer plays for a team that has none of that. No, truly nothing. Chelsea is out of the FA Cup, nothing in the Carabao Cup, losing in the final against Liverpool. They're not in the Premier League title race. They're not in the Premier League Champions League title race. They're not in any sort of European tournament. There is nothing for Chelsea except for Cole Palmer. And I truly do think that the level that he has played at this whole season has been so high that despite the lack of achievements from a team point of view, his individual level has been so good that it deserves to be this high on the list. It's crazy. It really is, because most guys I wouldn't give a pass like that for how bad their team is doing, but with Cole Palmer, I will. I gladly will. 23 goals and 13 assists and 39 matches in contention for nothing, guys. Nothing. And yet he's here on the mountain this high. That just shows the heart. That shows the grit to be willing to climb up a mountain this cold by yourself. My boy Cole Palmer guiding himself and guiding Chelsea to a respectable season, because otherwise they might have been in the relegation zone, truly. I love Cole Palmer and shout out to him. And so now we have reached the most exciting part of the mountain, because we have 2 tiers left, which means we have a total of 3 players left. This is where it gets really, really exciting. But for me, I do think it's clear what players are up top right now. The top 3 as of this moment in contention for the Ballon d'Or race. Producer Red, reveal it for me. We have Bundesliga players, Harry Kane and Florian Wirtz. Let's start with Harry Kane, because my goodness, I mentioned, players having off nights, having off games. Harry Kane has had very little of those. He always finds a way to be so involved offensively. 40 goals, 10 assists in 41 matches. 40 goals and 10 assists in 41 matches. Absolute class. Absolute class. Despite Bayern being shit in the Bundesliga, they're still in the semifinals of the UEFA Champions League, and that is their saving grace, because Harry Kane has been doing everything in his ability to be able to carry this team offensively, carry that weight, and he has actually delivered, because that's what he is. He's Harry Kane. He's one of the best finishers, if not the best finisher in world football, and he's showing it once again. It's beautiful to see, but to me, it's the fact that he's reached the 40s mark now. That's the difference. 40 goals in a season. I mean, I know we've become numb to hearing that because of Messi and Ronaldo, but forget them for a little bit. We have an English dude, a British dude putting up 40 goals, man. Lose your minds, because this is crazy, especially going into the Euros. What a season Harry Kane has had, and what I love is that he just hasn't slowed down. That's important to me. The form, that's important right now, because we're in the important parts of the season. I hope that he's able to lift the UEFA Champions League trophy at the end of it, because he would be finally getting his first trophy in his career, and it would be through his incredible offensive season. And the most shocking selection of this entire mountain is the reveal of Florian Wirtz. And I know you might have an initial reaction to that. You might, although I do think it's very warranted for him to be up this high. Wirtz has been incredible, and I think I need to make the case for him. I do, because 17 goals and 18 assists in 43 games might not sound that crazy. It might not. I get it. 35 total goals and assist contributions, but let me add some more details to maybe impress you a little bit more than how you are right now. 20 years old. A dude doing this at 20 years old is crazy. We hype up Bellingham for everything he has done, everything that he has achieved, and it makes sense, but a big part of it is because of his age. Bellingham is so young, doing it in one of the best leagues in the world and doing it on one of the biggest stages, the UEFA Champions League as well. Well, Florian Wirtz is 20. He is one of the, I would say, one of the more underrated wonder kids in world football. And he has always been that because he does play for a lesser team in Bayer Leverkusen when it comes to, history, status in comparison to like a Real Madrid. But the numbers are crazy. The age is so young. And the biggest part about this is Bayer Leverkusen is in contention for everything. And I believe only a couple of teams in world football can say that now. When I say in contention for everything, I'm talking about the DFB Pokal. I'm talking about the Europa League. They've secured the Bundesliga. They could actually get a treble here. They could win everything there is to win for them in an entire year. And the biggest factor, the biggest thing that I can say that can mark up the level of impressiveness is the fact that they've done this unbeaten the entire season. He could be guiding Bayer Leverkusen through the biggest achievement that world football has ever seen as the best player on that team. And that deserves credit. So if he had just a few more goals, he'd be number one. That's how close I believe Florian Wirtz is to the Ballon d'Or. Just a few goals away. Because the team achievements are just remarkable. They truly are. They're mind-blowing. And I can't believe that a player this young is doing it while playing a very attractive style of football. And the final moment has arrived. The final reveal of who is at the top of Reynoso Mountain. Folks, you already know who it's going to be. Because if he isn't on here already, then you'd be questioning this whole damn thing. But the answer is as clear as the water that we see up in this beautiful mountain. The answer is the one and only Kylian Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe is the front runner for the Ballon d'Or. He is the absolute 100% front runner right now because he has 41 goals and 9 assists in 42 matches this season. He has PSG in the UEFA Champions League semifinals. He scored a brace against Barcelona, though some easy goals. He still did it. He showed up. People were questioning that, and he showed up. 2 goals away from home in the big stage to carry PSG into the next stage. And the biggest thing, folks, is the same thing that I mentioned with Florian Wirtz. PSG is in contention for everything right now. Right now, they have the opportunity of getting the quadruple. Winning Ligue 1, winning the domestic cup, winning the UEFA Champions League, and then winning the Super Cup that they do domestically as well. There is a true chance that Kylian Mbappe leads this PSG team to a title that they have been thirsting for so many years. If he can get PSG in the UEFA Champions League final, then I think things are looking really, really good for the soon-to-be Madrid man. It's been an incredible season. Kylian Mbappe is leaving on the highest of notes for PSG, and it's been an absolute joy to watch. And this is just at the club level, folks, because remember, the Euros are going to be awesome, and we're going to have Kylian Mbappe with one of the best European teams in France. If he can do more there, then the case just gets stronger for the Frenchman. It just gets stronger. So I think he's off to the best foot right now, currently in the Ballon d'Or race. He is the man that summited first, and he's the man that is currently, setting up a tent. Setting up a tent. He's getting all comfy. He's got a little fire going on at the top of Reynoso Mountain, and he's making himself comfortable because if he continues at this pace, Mbappe will win the Ballon d'Or. And man, that gets me excited. So with that, folks, we have reached the top of Reynoso Mountain. And now I want to hear from you guys. Who do you guys think deserve to be here on this mountain that I might have missed out on? I think there's a lot of names. There's a lot of names, a lot of guys that are right there on the fringe asking to climb up it, but just haven't been given the permission by your boy Reynoso. Folks, thank you for visiting Reynoso Mountain. I hope to see you guys again very soon, and I'll be seeing you guys at the top next time.